Good morning and welcome to Tree Talk episode 164 with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. We had another busy weekend after just gone, Matt, with the Camogie finals and the Gaelic Crowns. We both Junior B finals. We actually have a replay in the Camogie this weekend. We have a couple of junior ladies football finals to look forward to, and also it was a sad week for Limerick with the passing of Eamonn Ned Rea. So we'll look at all that and more in the coming hour or so.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
I suppose looking at that intro, we look at every week, Matt. You see Richie Bennett's point there in 73 against Kilkenny. And for so long, that 73 team was the driving force in Limerick. We had to wait 45 years for another All-Ireland. But we lost one of that team during the week, a very sad week for Eamonn Rea and his family, who passed away on Monday afternoon. And I suppose for you, Matt, it wasn't just a Limerick player that you would have looked up to, but it was a friend. So it would have come as a shock, I suppose, to hear about his passing.
Yeah, Jack, it's a very, very sad week, not just for Effin, but indeed for Limerick and the wider GAA community, Jack, because Eamonn Rea was well known throughout the country. He was well known for his allegiance and his devoted loyalty to Limerick. And it came as an awful shock, first of all, when we heard that he had taken ill early last week, and then this week came news of his passing. Like, Limerick have lost a giant, and a giant both in stature and a giant of a man that, he absolutely he absolutely devoted himself. It is very, very hard to explain it, Jack. What sense of loyalty that he had to his county. It was just simply phenomenal. He had the same sense of loyalty to family, and the same sense of loyalty to native place. And we here in Glenroe would be very, very saddened with his passing, because it's been like he played with Effin, but both his parents were natives of Glenroe. They were near neighbours here at each side of the chapel, and actually I think he was actually born in Glenroe. So, and he would be a first cousin of Mike O'Brien, the former Limerick hurler. And Mike's father, thankfully, Morris, is still alive, hale and hearty, and he would be an uncle of Eamonn Rea's. So we would have very, very close connections. His father's family are at one side of the chapel, and his mother's family are at the other, still to this day. So he had very, very close links with this area. But his contribution to the GAA was phenomenal. Like, he went to attended St. Munchin's College for 5 years as a boarder. He was the eldest of 11 children. And, of course, he's a brother of Matt Rea, who won a National League medal with Limerick as well, and a brother of Jerry Rea, who has contributed so much to the GAA in London. And, of course, in 1973, when Limerick played London in the All-Ireland semi-final in Ennis, the brothers were down to mark each other. Because Eamonn was full forward for Limerick and Jerry was full back for London. It was a unique situation. But like his contribute from there, he went on to Palace Kenry for a year, then went to UCC, where he won a Fitzgibbon Cup medal and was involved in the Cork Championships. and he came back to Effin when he was finished college, and for a while he was working. He a dairy science degree, was working in a Glacka Creamery before he moved to Giant Galty Meats in Dublin, a company that I worked with him as a colleague for 10 years. And he was area manager and a very good one in Dublin because of his connections, and he made an awful lot of connections up there as well. And of course, he became famous then with his contribution with playing and administration in Fogs, the Dublin GA club Fogs, and of course the Club Limerick in Dublin, and GA Supporters Club in Dublin. Like he was to the forefront in all those. You know, he never missed an opportunity to get to a Limerick match. He never missed an opportunity to get to an Effin match. And it's only a month ago that he was in Newcastle West, and unfortunately on the day I didn't meet him, he was in Newcastle West to see his beloved Effin win the county title. It's very, very, very hard to quantify. First of all, he's a huge loss, Jack. You have to say, first of all, to his family, you know, to his wife and family, and to his brothers and sisters and extended family. He's a huge loss to the GA family, you know, for the contribution that he has made over the years. It was absolutely phenomenal. And as I said, he was in Newcastle West for the county final. There were limited celebrations after the county final because of COVID and what have you in Effin, but he was part and parcel of it all. He saw the whole thing out. As I said, he may have been in Dublin for almost 50 years, but by God, he never lost his sense of love and his sense of place and his dedication and to Limerick. And he will be so sadly missed. And you know, he was a man that, you know, whilst he put great store on family in the GA, he also had the same store on friends that he would have made, and it was one of the last discussions I had with him. He was talking just about his former colleagues in St. Munchins and how they used to meet up and all that sort of thing. And I know on a regular basis that he kept in regular contact with the 73 squad, and he had a fierce empathy for maintaining friendships and relationships, and like, you know, when it came to hurling, Jack, he was a fountain of wisdom. You know, I would say, of course, he ran the pub then in Parkgate Street, Eamonn Rea's pub, for over almost 25 years, and it was a mecca for not just Limerick GA fans, but it was a landmark in Dublin. He made it a landmark, and it was so close then to Euston Station and all that sort of thing that fans from all over the country tended to congregate there. You know, made it a sort of a meeting post, and he was so welcoming to them all, and he knew so many people from so many counties. You know, Jack, it's just impossible. First of all, it's impossible to really believe that he's gone, and like his loss to family and to the GA community, Jack, is just enormous.
Yeah,
May he rest in peace.
Yeah, we send all our condolences to the family and friends, and I think that's
absolutely
a fitting tribute from you there, Matt. But I suppose in the manner of the man he was and the legacy he'd leave behind, he'd rather us focus on the GA for today and
Yeah, he's left the legacy. He's left the legacy behind, and indeed, like the Rea family have made a huge contribution. As I said, Jerry has made a huge contribution in London. Matt, Jack with Effin and with Clahan, and Matt and Mike is out in Crocora at the moment. He's living out there, and like wherever they are. You know, they took their example from their older brother, and you know, they made a contribution. And Jack, the important thing about the contribution that they make is everything that they made was for positive reasons and for the right reasons.
Yeah, and that legacy will live long in the family, in the Limerick GA circles, and he definitely won't be missed. But I suppose we'll have to move on and talk about sports. That's what Eamon would have liked as a true Gael. And at the weekend just gone, I suppose it was Camogie's red letter day. We had the senior and intermediate finals in the Gaelic rounds, and 24 hours beforehand with the junior final. But we'll start with the senior final. This is the showpiece event of the year. We had a repeat of the 2020 final. We had Killeedy, who were defending champions, going in against Newcastle West. In the end, Newcastle West claimed a 1-9-8 victory. I suppose for a lot of players on the team, it was a double with backing up Mona Gay's win in the ladies football the previous week. But I suppose before we get into the game, Matt, the game wasn't being streamed, I suppose, as an impetus to get people to the game. There was over 2,000 in the Gaelic grounds. Very cold day, but we certainly made up for it with the action we saw on the field.
It did, Jack, and I know you and I discussing since the match, like we sort of differ to a degree on the quality of what was an offer, but you'd say how would 2,000 people create an atmosphere in the Gaelic grounds? But by God, Jack, the partisans from both sides of Newcastle West and Killeedy, they certainly made themselves heard on last Sunday, and it was a red letter day for Limerick Camogie, and you know, the week before, the ladies football took a leap of faith in organising their intermediate and senior finals for the Gaelic grounds. The Camogie the Limerick Camogie followed suit, and Jack, both of them were stunning successes. Absolutely stunning successes. The days were a stunning success, and full credit, full credit to the ladies. They in both codes, they really pushed the boat out and had everything organised to a T, programs, whatever, you know, the whole shebang, as they say in the country. Everything was just so. But getting back to your original question, I thought it was a decent final, because Jack, if you look at the background to the final, this was a repeat of last year's final. And we did say right from the start, and I think we were, you know, here on our cast, we were fancying Newcastle West from the outset, that this would be their year. And I think part of the reason that, in my judgment anyway, that Newcastle West would win, was they lost last year when they were without Rebecca DeLee, and when Karen O'Leary had to go off. And, you know, I felt that the influence of those two players, if they didn't suffer any injury during the game, would be enormous. And that proved to be the case, because Rebecca DeLee got 6 points, set up the goal for Iris Kennelly, which was a clinical finish. And what a sportswoman Iris Kennelly is, what a talent she is, Jack, because in the county ladies football semi-final, in my opinion, she got as good a goal in that as I have seen, and she got a fine goal in the county final, and like talking to the Newcastle West girls after, like they were loud in their praise of Iris, and Karen O'Leary. We saw the influence of Karen O'Leary, player of the match. She was everywhere, buzzing everywhere, chipped in with a couple of points. So that was the reason for my judgment to think that Newcastle West would reverse it. But I think that Newcastle West, for the most part, Jack, they held the upper hand. Now, they were a bit slow on starting. And there was a couple of quick points there on. You Cunningham got a fine point early on. Marion O'Connell added to it with a free. And they were playing into the breeze at this stage, Killeedy. And one sense that, but that Newcastle West were slow and settling. But once they settled and got into their rhythm, they looked to exert a level of control throughout the game, I think. But if there was any downside or slight downside to it, I think Newcastle West had a couple of opportunities to put Killeedy away sooner and didn't do so. But overall, I thought it was an efficient performance once they got going by Newcastle West. But typical Killeedy, Jack, they battled and they battled. And they showed why they were county champions last year. And they made it very clear right from the start, that they weren't going to relinquish their title easily. But I'd say they would be first to put their hands up and say that on the day the better team won.
Yeah, I think on the day the better team did win, and I don't think the quality was lacking. I think probably you get it with finals when two evenly matched teams go against each other. It can be very tentative and they kind of cancel each other out. That's the point I was making. You know these teams could easily put up 1-15, 2-16 on any given day. So I thought it was very low scoring, but I think the stars were on show for Newcastle West. You mentioned obviously Karen O'Leary and Rebecca DeLee, but I thought Deborah Murphy for the second week in a row was the best player on the field by a mile. I just think, like Keane Lynch, any dirty ball that comes her way, she's coming out with it. She's just, as Karen O'Leary does, she buzzes around. Just a brilliant midfield partnership to them two. And I suppose you can't really mention Newcastle West Camogie without mentioning Mona Gay and the football. And for those girls to go back to back in a senior championship in the space of 7 days is really incredible, Matt.
Absolutely, and I agree totally with you about Deborah Murphy. She's a phenomenal dual player. And you just love, and and I'm not, it comes down to the dual player thing again, like Karen O'Leary and Debbie Murphy, if they played football with Limerick, what an asset they would be, But it's a phenomenal. It was a phenomenal 8 days for the girls who were involved in both, and I suppose there was 10 or 12. Involved in both squads, and Karen O'Leary, I suppose, summed it up when she was talking with us after Jack, when she alluded to the fact that they lost both finals last year, and here they've come back, and she was pondering as to what would have happened had they lost again this year. So, but certainly it's a spectacular double for a wonderful group of players, Jack.
Yeah, and I suppose for other teams looking, it kind of goes to show that a lot of time it takes losing one to win one, and that's becoming ever more prevalent. But just to have, I suppose, the belief, the confidence to get over a loss and to come back and do a double after losing a double, it's just great credit to Newcastle West, and they have a Munster Championship to look forward to now. But they really, they have been the standard bearers this year. I know Killeedy were champions. They won their 2 group games, and they were very, very efficient against Effin in the semi-final. But on the grand scheme of things, we said from the start when Newcastle West beat Effin in the first game that they looked like they were really ready to make up for 2020, and they did just that. And
you're talking about a hand, of course, Jack.
A hand, sorry, I don't know what I was saying there, but it's incredible that they've reached 3. I know it's a dual thing again. They've reached 3 Camogie finals in a row, 5 ladies football finals in a row. Their record isn't the best, but just to have that bounce back ability is really commendable.
Well, we spoke about that record, and in the context of the football, when we were saying that 1 out of 5 would be paltry, that 2 out of 5 is a damn sight better, and in the Camogie now it's 2 out of 3. So 8 finals, 4 successes. Most groups of players would bite the hand off you for it.
Yeah, and I think a double as well in the senior championship would make up for an awful lot of losses. But I suppose that was the main event of the day. We had the curtain raiser between Mona Lean and Cappamore. I think this game failed to fire. I think it's fair to say that. I thought Mona Lean were probably the better side over the course of the hour, but Cappamore's ability to get goals look to have them safe home and hosed, get promotion a year after losing the final with a Saoirse Fitzgerald goal, level things 2-3 to 1-6. So I suppose we can look back on that game, Matt, but you have to look forward as well. They're going to play in a replay this Sunday in the Bog Garden at 2:00. I suppose, what did you take from the game, which was last year's losing finalists against last year's junior champions?
I think your summation of it is right, Jack. It was in generally it wasn't a great game. It failed to spark. It failed to ignite, I thought. I think there was possibly pressure on both sides. You'd Cappamore on one hand, having lost last year, and the pressure of not wanting to lose for a second year in a row, and you had Monaleen coming up, just being one step away from senior camogie next year. It's a phenomenal rise in the fortunes of camogie and Monaleen. Like, they were only junior champions last year, so they had the pressure of appearing in the first final. But I thought in general it was a poor final, and I suppose there was a bit of luck attached to both of Cappamore's goals. In first of all, that the first goal anyway, which was finished by Lane Berkeray, was Mike Flannery. Originally, the referee indicated that it was a free out, but following consultation with his umpires, he was happy to he changed his mind and was happy to let the goal stand. And the second goal, which was a probing delivery from Lisa Leonard, it sort of deceived the Monaleen defence and nestled in the net, and it looked as if that goal actually was going to be decisive. It was a fierce low scoring game, Jack, 1-6 to 2-3, and I think they were level 4 times during the game. So it was disappointing overall. Now, Saoirse Fitzgerald, who had come on as a sub, she took her goal very, very, very well, and really both sides. That was on the 57th minute, with 3 minutes to go, plus whatever time was added on. I think there was about 2 or 3 minutes added on, Jack. Rather than one or other of them going for the killer blow at that stage, I think they more or less huffed and puffed and left it play out to a draw. But overall, I think it's Monaleen, as you rightly said, Jack, on the side that will have said to themselves, this is one that has got away.
Yeah.
Because I think that they didn't convert their superiority onto the scoreboard.
No, they definitely didn't.
If you don't do that, it could come back to haunt you. That they will rematch this weekend. And do we need to talk about it now?
Well, while we're on about them, we might as well talk about it. Which, one thing I'll say about it is, a lot of time when you're going in against the favourites, which Cappamore would have been after being there last year, you might get one chance where they're not on it. That'll be the fear from Monaleen, that, and as we both said, their chance could be gone. But on the grand scheme of things, if you had just gone in and watched that game and never seen a game before, you would have said Monaleen are the better side. So it'd just be a case of which Cappamore and which Monaleen show up this Sunday.
It is, and it's out in the Bog Garden now, and which is a very fine camogie venue, and it's hard to call, but I'm of the school of thought anyway, Jack, that Monaleen may have missed their chance. When you're coming in against favourites, as you rightly said there, you usually get one chance, and Cappamore have to be favourites, Jack. They were last year's runners-up. They came also close against Bruff last year, and of course we saw that Bruff won the B championship, Senior B, this year.
Yeah,
with that low-scoring win over Napier-Sheik and Fedimore last Sunday, and they came also close last year, Cappamore, and they had a huge win over Ballygran in the semi-final, and it's not that terrible long ago since Ballygran were winning the senior championship, you know. But I fancy that Cappamore will do it this time, Jack. But it's a big order. It's a tall order for Mona Lean to repeat what they did last week, because they really threw everything at it. And in my opinion, if you were to say which one of them looked the more likely, or which one of them failed to win the game, you'd have to say it was Mona Lean.
Yeah, and I just allude to how many times we see the correct Kilkenny teams draw a game. We saw them against Galway a couple of times, Waterford and Tipperary, and you kind of get that one chance where they mightn't be off it, but the next day they come back firing. So I think Cappamore will definitely be the happier to have a replay. But then again, if Mona Lean perform like they do, and just maybe a few of the errors in shot selection and things, that there's no doubting that they can win it. They've shown they have the capabilities to win it. So that is a really enthralling contest to look forward to. But I suppose it would be poetic justice for Cappamore to be back in the Bog Garden and probably avenge the loss last year to Bruff. And I suppose on Bruff, you mentioned it there, they beat Na Piarsaigh in the B final. But that means that Na Piarsaigh and Crocora now are in danger of going down. So there's still an awful lot of camogie to be played in the month ahead, I suppose.
There's quite a lot, and there's the Junior B Championship is to be finished, and over the next couple of weeks. But like the main business of the season is out of the way, and I presume the Intermediate Championship will be out of the way at the weekend. So and the Junior A Championship is out of the way, and I know we'll be talking about that in a second. So yeah, they've made very good progress, Jack, and it's whether there will be relegation this year or not. Somebody raised the question mark with me over the weekend about it. That 7 teams up, would they be better off with 8 teams? 2 fours.
I'd probably be in the agreement that you're probably better off having 2 fours.
Yes, would be conducive to a better competition in 2022. So. Yeah, that's just one to watch.
Yeah, I suppose aside the point there, we'll say it probably made no difference to Newcastle and Killeedy, but Newcastle did have 4 games this year, whereas Killeedy only had 3. I don't think it had any effect on the final, but I think teams should probably play the same amount of games in the group stage regardless. Now, if you've come through quarterfinals or semi-finals, that's a different side point. But I would be in favour of having 8 in that top tier and just give exposure to the likes of Cappamore, Mona Lean, whoever comes up, and Bruff are only there a year, Core only there a couple of years, to play it like Killeedy and Newcastle, because you do improve by playing these big teams. But you mentioned the junior final there, Matt. Adair got over the line against Galway. You were at it. I suppose it was comprehensive enough in the end, and you had mentioned we'd singled out a couple before the game, and you hate to single out players, but Sophie Callan was named player of the match on centre back. Caoimhe Costello scored all around her as usual, and Aisling Conlon got the goal. I suppose they were 2-8 to 1-2 ahead at the half. Aisling Connolly and Caoimhe Costello, they got in goal. So the big players really stood up and accounted for there.
Yeah, Jack, in Effin last Saturday there was a great sense of occasion, and a big crowd, a big crowd now for a Junior A final. There was a huge crowd, and I lauded the efforts of Effin and their facilities last week, but I hadn't been there because of the lockdown with almost 2 years, and the improvement that has been in the interim has been phenomenal, in that they have a walkway right around the field, an outdoor gym, and they have proper dugouts installed. It's absolutely a phenomenal venue, and it just goes to show like what small clubs in a small community can do, and the type of facilities they provide, and that these fine facilities. And of course we spoke about the indoor astroturf and the indoor ball wall last week, but that these type of facilities aren't just the preserve of senior clubs and the bigger clubs, that a club like Effin can have such fine facilities. Full credit to them out there. We did an entertaining game. It was Adair got 2 goals in 3 minutes. They were playing with the breeze in the first half, and they really had the game changers. Now Sophie O'Callaghan at centre back, she was the captain. She was absolutely outstanding, Jack. She was immense. Now Caoimhe Costello got 1-8, and including the goal which came from a free, and Aisling Connolly at full forward. 2 times All-Star with Galway. She was absolutely outstanding. Galway just couldn't cope with her. And Galway's problems were compounded as early as the 3rd minute when they lost their full-back, Keith O'Brien, to injury. But Aisling Connolly caused them all sorts of problems. She ended up with 1-4 from play, Jack. And an absolutely huge asset to Adair. But overall, Adair were the better team. It's a young Galway team. A young Galway team that is very, very, very much progressing in the right direction. Denise Mullins got 1-4 of their 1-6. She was full forward. She capitalized on fumbling and uncertainty in the Adair defence to crash the ball to the net pretty soon after the 2 goals now, Jack. So it was the ideal response to conceding 2 goals to get one back pretty, I suppose, within maybe 2-3 minutes of the second goal. But it was 2-8 to 1-2 at half time. Galway showed signs of revival maybe for a few minutes after half time. They hit over a couple of points. Denise Mullins got a free. Anna Rose Kennedy got a very good point from play. Now, as we flagged last week, there was 3 of the Tipperary senior ladies football team playing with Galway. They're attached to the Aherlow Club, which is in the same parish as Galway. There was Anna Rose and Caitlin Kennedy and Emma Morrissey. And I thought they had big games. All 3 of them had big games for Galway around the middle. But Galway are certainly a team on the up, but there can be no denying of it that on the day Adair were the better side, Jack.
Yeah, and we're going to be switching codes here, but I suppose for Adair, the job is only half done, like it was for Monaghan and Newcastle. They have a Junior A ladies football final this weekend against the Tay. We saw that it could be done. We saw Monaghan and Newcastle West doing it. There'd be an awful lot of turnover in the players. And without moving on from that junior final too quickly, for the club, it's going to be finished this weekend. On the Tay and Adair beat them by, I think it was 7 points when they met in the group stages. But Tay beat Galtee Gales in the semi-final. Adair drew with Galtee Gales. So it's an evenly enough match game, and that's going to play this Sunday at 3 o'clock in Askeaton.
It is, Jack. The paths to the final are peculiar. Yeah. And they're contrasting.
Very.
Adair going to the final unbeaten. The only blemish on a 100% record was the draw with Galway. Tay, by contrast, had only 1 win in the group stages. They lost 3. So, and they had a good win over Galtee Gales, because I suppose the perception from the outset was that the big 2 in the competition this year were going to be Adair and Galtee Gales. So when they drew in the group stages, it wasn't a great surprise to anybody, because both probably had a bigger day in their head. But for Adair, it has become a reality. Unfortunately, from the Gales' point of view, it hasn't, because they were beaten by a Tay in the semi-final. Now you have this is the 3rd final in a row, Jack, that Adair are in. They were beaten in the final by Father Casey's in 2019. They were due to play Adair in the Tay in the final last year. It got lost to COVID. And they're back in the final again this year, and they've made phenomenal progress. Like you must remember that the Adair club is only 16 years in existence since 2005, and like this is going to be a huge step for them. Like win on Sunday, and they're gone up to intermediate ranks in a 16-year span. But the amount of work that's been done at underage and ladies sport in Adair is just simply enormous. But Jack, what can you say about a Tay? Like the great traditionalists of Limerick ladies football, the fallen giants of Limerick ladies football.
Yeah.
Like between 2001 and 2010, they won 10 Limerick Senior Championships in a row. Yeah. They're in existence with 30 years, and they have won 30 in senior club championships. They've won a Munster Intermediate Championship. Like their success story is unparalleled, but they have fallen on lean times, and like certainly their record coming into this year's final, and they'll probably say to themselves, like, we're in a perfect position. We've nothing to lose. Adair tick all the boxes. Like they're coming in unbeaten, third final in a row. Whilst Adair coming in, they have managed to get to the final under the radar. Like 4 games in the group stages, lose 3, you just win 1. It was enough to get to the semi-final because there was just 5 clubs in the group, and then they had that win over Galtee Gales. And like that, your analysis was right there. They beat Galtee Gales by 2 points. Galtee Gales drew with Adair in the last round, but it's not as simple as that, Jack.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that, but I suppose they do have that bit of momentum now after.
Absolutely, and there is the double. Although Sophie O'Callaghan insisted to me after the game on Saturday that the double was a word that was banned around the there.
Yeah, she was quick to shut you down there inside in the Gaelic grounds. I was there as well.
Oh yeah. Because it is out of their lexicon until Sunday evening anyway. So I'm going for Adair, Jack. That's going to be your next question. I think Adair have momentum. There's 8 players that started in the Camogie final are likely to start in the ladies football final. And that includes the chairperson of Limerick Camogie, Grace McNamara. Grace, who has done a great job and did a great job last Sunday, played with the Camogie, picked up her county Camogie medal last week, and will be hoping to put a little football medal beside it this coming week.
Yeah, I won't be asking for like specific predictions this week, just to give us a break, because we've been going 14 weeks in the trot. But as you mentioned, that the Camogie games and just me and Sophie, when we met Sophie, we were below in the Gaelic grounds just to get a sandwich and a cup of tea, and you have to commend the Woodlands, if I'm correct in saying that they supplied sandwiches and teas, etc. for the media and stuff. And then when you were saying about Grace McNamara, to have a Munster representative down there, there was player of the match awards, there was medals given out to younger players. So just before we go away from the Camogie last weekend, it was just brilliant day all around, well organised, well executed. I was definitely very happy for that cup of tea in the 45 minutes in 2 games, because it was absolutely Baltic. But the stage has been set. You have to reach that level now every year, and no fear that they will. But the barometer has definitely been raised that bit.
Well, the blueprint is there, Jack. Like part of the prize of qualifying for an All-Ireland final is that you get to play in Croke Park, and let's hope that this has been a trial run that has been an outstanding success, and will become part of both the ladies football and the Camogie calendar in Limerick going forward. That we have the intermediate and senior finals on the one day in the Gaelic grounds. And it's that extra carrot for players when they're, and you hear players saying, "Oh, I never played in the Gaelic grounds. I'd love to play in the Gaelic grounds." And actually, some of the players mentioned it to me out in the field last Sunday, before and after the match, about playing in the Gaelic grounds. Now, this is an extra spur, and this is an extra incentive for players during competition like that. If you can get there, that the final will be on the Gaelic grounds, and I think that should be stitched in indelibly into the GAA calendar, because, like as I say, we're progressing at a snail's pace down the road at uniting all 4 codes and being on the one hymn sheet. And this is a giant step locally. And we have the one club concept. And I think this really buys into and is a stage of the journey of where we want to get to have the entire GAA family united and coordinated with fixtures and all that sort of thing. And full credit to both organisations in Limerick. They stuck with every second weekend diligently during the championships. All right, there is Camogie and ladies football on this weekend, but there is no crossover whatsoever. Monaleen and Cappamore aren't involved anyway with the 2 ladies football finals. So if this year is the blueprint for the future, long may it continue.
Yeah, the blueprint, as you said, perfect word, is there. But we have another game to look forward to this weekend, and I know we have more games to look back on, but we have the Junior B ladies football final. We have St. Ailbe's second side against Drumcolor Bradford second side. They both came from the same group. Bradford were comprehensive enough winners when they met. But again, when you're in a final, it's there to be won. And for Bradford, it'll be a very unique double after winning the Intermediate Championship. Just to have a team just 2 grades below you would be a great achievement. But at the same time, St. Ailbe's had won back-to-back senior titles and had a team in the semi-final. So 2 real strongholds of ladies football in Limerick, and I suppose great credit to both sides that their second teams have made it all the way to a final.
Great credit to them, Jack. Absolutely, great credit to them for Drum. It's an opportunity for a unique double, and for St. Ailbe's, it's an opportunity to get some consolation silverware out of the season. Like these teams, nobody can argue with their right to be there. They've come from the same group. Drumcolor are coming in unbeaten. Ailbe's are coming in with 1 defeat, and that was at the hands of Drumcolor. Now, it was at Drum Bradford. It was by a substantial margin, but I suspect that will count for very, very little when they square up in Croom on Sunday morning. And the game is on in Croom at 11 o'clock. And Drum Bradford, we spoke about it last week, and about this whole thing with the Munster clubs, and they're having to play last Friday evening and having to play without the Killeedy Camogie players and all that. That necessitated, unfortunately, that they had to promote 2 of their players, Clodagh Reedy and Sarah Kate O'Connor, from what would be their normal starting 15. So that certainly will even it up. But there is momentum with Drum Bradford. Like, they're after completing back-to-back intermediate titles. Now, it's you say, why did they get back-to-back intermediate titles? It was no fault of their own. COVID ordained last year that there shouldn't be any promotion. So they won it last year, and I think they came back and confirmed this year, that they were rightly champions last year. But you know what, and I know I'm probably harping back now, but the manner in which they saw out the game against Ula was very, very, very laudable, and there is serious momentum with them, and they have the same management team, and obviously they're a few extras. Niamh McCarthy is involved with the management team, and they obviously have been training together. So they will have a process in place, and they will have a system in place, and I think we saw that process to great effect in the county intermediate final. Ailbe's, they will have a lot of players that will have had senior experience, because they have been senior champions for the last 2 years, and there are people that will be on the Ailbe's team that will have experience, and it counts an awful lot at this level. But I seem to think that the momentum, Jack, is with Drum Bradford, and I'm tipping Drum Bradford to get over the line and make it a unique double.
Yeah, I would go with Drumbrafford there as well. But you touched upon the point there about the Drum Intermediate team having to play that Munster Junior Championship only 5 days after they won the Limerick Championship and 2 days before the Camogie team were playing a county final. And I suppose we've spoken about the baby steps we've taken with Lady Sport in Limerick with the games being on the Gaelic grounds, but for every step you take, it seems to be there's a step backwards as well, unfortunately. And it's not fair on the players that train so hard to win a county, and at the end of the day, the county is the one you want to win because you don't prepare for Munster Championship or an All-Ireland series. You prepare to win your county because the other two don't come unless you do that. But it's a great bonus.
Well, you see, Jack, this is slightly different here now because talking to the Drumbradford girls, and you were talking to them after they had beaten after they had beaten Oola in the county final, like they were really looking forward to the Munster Championship. Because as Maeve McCarthy, the fullback, told me straight after the match anyway, like that they were deprived of the opportunity of playing in Munster last year, and they regarded it as an honour to go on and represent their county at provincial level. And I think in those circumstances that there should be no obstacles put in their way.
Yeah.
That like it's difficult enough now for clubs to get out teams, and all right, you can say, sure, look, Drumbradford, they've loads of players. They've loads of players between the intermediate team and the Junior B team. Jack, nothing got to do with it. They're entitled as Limerick champions to have the best opportunity they have to go out with their full squad and compete and represent their club in the provincial championship.
Yeah, something needs to be done. It's not fair. Drumbradford could easily have missed out on a Munster title just by virtue of the fact that they couldn't have the Camogie players, and it shouldn't be a choice the players have to make or told by management teams that they'd rather didn't play. It should just be put in a place that they just don't clash. We never see it with the men's game, so we shouldn't see it with the women's game either. And it has been a very positive year, I suppose, for Drumbradford. At the end of the day, they're going to promote it. Will have been the main objective after missing out of promotion last year. But
Jack, they were entitled to, and we saw the performance of Anya Cunningham in the county final. Player of the match. She was one of the ones to miss out.
Yeah. And as you said, it negatively affects
and psychologically, what does it do for the rest of the dressing room when they look around and there's 3 or 4 gaps from the team that started in the county final or participated in the county final?
Yeah, your player of the match, your captain, one of your leaders gone, and there was 2 or 3 that couldn't play either. Like I just think it has to be highlighted, Matt. I think the more exposure these kind of things get, that the more chance it'll be rectified. And look, hopefully down the line we won't have these issues. We've made great progress, as we said, about having the games in the Gaelic grounds, having double headers, having, like, let's say, even having a game in Effin, as you mentioned, in the Gaelic grounds. We had the teas, the coffees, the sandwiches, etc. So there has been positives, but for one team that would have been a real negative, and I suppose it would have been gnawing away at them, and will be gnawing away at them for a while, the kind of what could have been, and I suppose for the players that played for Killeedy last weekend, they would have been thinking, we missed out on a Munster Championship and then we lost the county final. It's just a double blow.
Absolutely, Annie Cunningham was the captain and she couldn't lead her side down.
Yeah, and you don't get Munster isn't guaranteed for an awful lot of players. I'd say probably 90-95% of players won't play provincial championship game ever in their life. So look, it's a huge blow. I think it's just important to say it, Matt, and I'm sure you agree with that.
I'm fuming over it, Jack. At the treatment of Drumbradford in this one.
Yeah, but look, Drumbradford will get a chance to, I suppose, rectify to an extent on the pitch. They play St. Ailbe's, as you said, at 11 o'clock on Croom on Sunday, and then the Junior A final is between Adair and Atay in Skeeton at 3 o'clock on Sunday. We had 2 more finals at the weekend, Matt. We had both Junior B championship finals, a South final repeat and a West final repeat. We'll start in your neck of the woods down south with Bruff versus Blackrock. And I suppose for Blackrock, they avenged the South final loss and got the win over Bruff.
They did, and I got it spectacularly wrong, Jack. Apologies to David Healy. David, if you're tuned in listening to us, my humble apologies to you. He seemed to be upset over it, that I should predict against Blackrock. But yeah, look, Jack, I honestly think, like we did say, that there was very, very, very little between these two sides. And the one thing that I'll say about it, Jack, and I'll say it again, I was at the South final and I was also at the semi-final involving Cappamore and Newcastle West. And you would struggle to accept that it was Junior B hurling. It was a very, very, very good standard. Very, very good standard. And all the reports that I'm hearing about the county final last week between Blackrock and Bruff was that it was more of the same. It was a very, very, very good final. And I think that very, very few can argue with the outcome. Now, when I reflected on it and looking back on it since, it came to mind that on the day of the South final, Blackrock were guilty of an awful lot of missed chances. And it sort of gave him a blueprint as to how they could recover and go on and win it. And full credit to them for going on and win it. They were winning it, Jack, for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's a major boost for them. And plus now that they have the opportunity to go on and represent Limerick in the Munster Junior B competition, which will be held in Killeedy. Magella Scanlon, who's the main coordinator back there of the competition, or very much to the forefront in the promotion of the competition, told me on Sunday in the Gaelic grounds that they're hoping to have it in January, February.
It's a great competition, in fairness, that Junior B competition.
It's an absolutely fantastic competition, and it's a competition that, personally, Jack, I really look forward to. I get to as much of it as I can every year, and there's always twists and turns in it, and we Kevin Broderick, the former Galway hurler, playing in it a couple of years ago, and we've had former players in the past, Magella did confirm to me that the Antrim champions are booked in for it already for early in the new year. So it's something to really, really look forward to. It's a competition I really look forward to, and I with my next door neighbours involved in it now, it makes it that little bit better,
Yeah, I'd say if Bruff had gone through, they would have been your next door neighbours as well. You were fancying the South team, but I suppose for Blackrock, in the grand scheme of things, they'll be playing Junior A hurling next year. It will only benefit the senior side, they've maintained their status for 2 years in the senior championship, but they've failed to light it up. So having younger players play Junior A will probably be a bonus for them. We also will have Granite Ballingarry representing Limerick in the Junior B, in the Munster Junior B championship. They beat Knockaderry fairly comprehensively 12-2, and I suppose Knockaderry got the first two. Knockaderry went 2-1 ahead, and then from there on in, it was all Granite Ballingarry. And I saw.
Yeah, it's a funny game actually, Jack. You're right. It was 2-1 to Knockaderry at the first water break.
Yeah,
and they didn't score again. So, they've been knocking around the Junior B there with a while, and they're certainly getting so far, but just cannot seem to get over the line. Is it the third or fourth time Granite Ballingarry won it? I think David Clancy has 3 county Junior B football medals.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. So
I've seen Granite Ballingarry play a share over the last years, and Knockaderry obviously with Palestine being in that grade as well. But I just think Granite Ballingarry definitely have a team that are capable of competing in the junior A level. Probably not Premier Junior at this stage, and for Knockaderry, I think when they have intermediate hurling teams, I think it's an awful lot to put pressure on players, but I think they will definitely be capable. I don't think it'll be a case of Granite will go up and come back down. I think they're there early for the long haul. There's some lovely footballers there, but
you see, Jack, unlike the previous times when they went up, the format and the structure is there for them to survive now, in that you're not making the giant leap in that it's staged progress. And I agree with you totally. I think Granagh Ballingarry will settle in quite comfortably in the Junior A Championship. Now, I would say the same about Blackrock. Looking at that Blackrock team and the composition of the Blackrock team, I think they're capable of holding their own then. And is the Junior Championship going to stay the way it is? Or are we going to go down the road of Premier and Junior A?
I heard there's a directive that all championships to be 12 teams. Look, if it makes it more competitive, all the better. We saw how good the Premier Junior and Junior Championships were in the football this year. So, I mean, there is definitely a divide in that Junior A hurling championship. I would have seen it up close and personal.
I think the paragon is there for it with the football this year. And if Limerick decide to go down that road, I think it will be actually tailor-made for Blackrock.
Yeah, it will be very, very interesting to see how the teams get on. But I suppose congratulations to Granagh Ballingarry, to Blackrock, their Camogie team, to Newcastle West Camogie team. They all picked up county medals at the weekend. Again, nothing promised. No one is guaranteeing you a county medal when you start your career, but it's what you play for. I suppose before we go, we have neglected, I suppose, is one word, the under-21s championship. You probably not so much as me. Just the amount of games around, it's so hard to get to games, but we're into the semi-final stage of that competition now. I just want to get the fixtures up that you kindly sent me this morning. We're down to the last four in the Premier. We have, and let me just find it here, we have Mungret are drawn to play in the Piershig in the semi-final, and Doon will play Ballybrown. Both those games are on the 30th of December, it says here. I thought it was actually, I don't know if that's a mistake now, Matt. I'd imagine it's going to be the 30th of November, which would be...
It is the 30th of November, Jack, yeah.
Yeah, it says 30th of 12th here, but I'd imagine that is November. Mungret are playing the Piershig in Rabog at 7:30, and Doon are playing Ballybrown in Knocklang at 7:30. The 30th, by my recollection, is next Tuesday. But just on that championship, we saw Mungret and Doon, both at 100% records, got straight into semi-finals. The Piershig beat Patrickswell, and Ballybrown beat Gary Spillane. But you were mentioning to me beforehand, it's a unique dynamic that three teams came from the same side. You've Mungret, the Piershig, and Ballybrown all came from the same group. Doon, the Piershig, and Ballybrown all came from the same group. But I suppose for Mungret and Ballybrown, you're kind of seeing the teams at adult levels are building, and it's showing here. And like an under-21 Premier Hurling Championship at Limerick is not won by any ordinary team. Like, there are going to be some very good players on those teams.
Oh, sure. They're littered and peppered with very good players. And like, you must remember that the Premier Intermediate, the 2018 Premier Minor Hurling Championship was won by Gary Spillane. And they fell at the quarter-final last night. Now, I thought that Gary Spillane would have a right go at that this year. Basically, they have the same players, and you would have expected that they would have stepped up, but it isn't that they have regressed. I would say it's probably that some of the others, particularly Ballybrown and Mungret St. Paul's, have progressed, probably more, and. Like, you throw in the Piershig. The Piershig are in the semi-final. And the Piershig love this competition, Jack. Yeah. They're the masters of this competition in recent years, And I'd say at the outset, if one was looking at the competition and saying, I don't think the Piershig would come up in too many people's radar as being possible winners or even semi-finalists, but they're there. And they're not to be ignored, and they will have the benefit of they have beaten Ballybrown, Jack, in the group stages.
Yeah,
and they had a very comprehensive win over Patrickswell in the quarter-final. Now, Ballybrown, you'd have to say Premier Minor Champions 2019, 2020, under 19, Premier Under 19 Champions 2021. Like that there's a reservoir and a pool of players there to go on and do it. They didn't root up any trees in the group stages, but maybe that's a good thing. That that they're about to peak at the right time, and they certainly will have to peak next Tuesday night when they take on when they take on Doon, because like Doon are a very, very, very fancied side. So they're two enthralling semi-finals, Jack. Two semi-finals that are very, very, very hard to call and could go either way.
We won't be talking between here and then, Matt. So if you did have to call it, who will be crowned under 21 champions from the four that are remaining?
You're putting me in the spot, Jack.
I know, yeah. Well, I'll give my reason first.
I have a hunch about Ballybrown, Jack.
Well, they do have an All-Ireland winner in their ranks, which is rare enough at a 21's grade in Colin Coughlin. But I would go with Mungret. I just think they're doing great work. I know they're missing a couple of through injury, but they'll have that added advantage of they'll be training away with their adult team. Obviously,
yeah, there is that to it as well, you know. But can discount doing on the PSC, Jack? Ask me when we're down to the final.
I was just about to say, so any of the four teams could win it, is our prediction that we will have a winner. I suppose when we're talking about 21's hurling, we have a final that Cappamore will play Cushley Gales on the 3rd of December, which is Friday week in Doon at 7:30. Would you call that one, Matt? Cappamore, Cushley Gales, or do you need to be closer to time next week? We'll be chatting beforehand.
Cushley Gales, for anybody that doesn't know, are a combination of Effin and Staker Wallace. And Cushley Gales can call in at least 4 or 5 of the starting Effin intermediate hurling team. The two O'Connors, Sean Fergal and Rory. Sean Canning, and of course Patrick O'Donovan.
So you're edging towards the men from Cushley Gales, whereas the Cappamore lads, there will be a couple of them, the likes of Sean Whelan, that played a Premier Intermediate final as well. So they're strong teams.
Jack, there's great work being done in Cappamore. Make no mistake about it. Leave me sleep and think on that for another week, Jack. I
will do. We've an hour on the clock. There's just a couple of things I want to just touch on. We had kind of an announcement of the fixture schedule for the year ahead, Matt. Now we haven't done much on it, but just we're going to have a McGrath Cup and a Munster Hurling League, and we'll talk about that next week. We'll be just looking at players that might break through, but we have a calendar here, and I'll just run through it quickly. So we said teams are allowed back training on December the 8th, which is a week earlier than we thought. The last weekend in January, we'll have the footballers in action, the league. The following week, the hurlers will kick off their league. The 2nd and 3rd of July.
Well, let's go to Wexford, I think, Jack.
Is it Wexford? I thought it was Waterford. I'm not sure now. But
Wexford in the first round, Wexford Park.
No, lovely. You'll have it booked in for the 6th. If it's a Saturday, it'll be the 6th. If it's the Sunday, it'll be the 7th of February. The All-Ireland Senior Hurling semi-finals are the 2nd and 3rd of July. And then the following week, then we have the Senior Football Championship semi-finals and also the Talton Cup, which could be applicable to Limerick. They could also be in the Senior Championship semi-finals. But we'll have the July 17th and July 24th is when the All-Ireland finals are on. So they're pushed back, way back, Matt. So I suppose if that club split is really coming into play for 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a month longer than this year anyway, which will be very welcome, because we saw how condensed the championships were this year and how formats had to be rejigged to accommodate the short time span that was available for the championship. So it is welcome, Jack, to have that extra time, but it puts clubs in a predicament with managers and all that sort of thing now, and bringing in managers at the start of the year and 6 months without a meaningful game. Although I suppose that we will have a league program. And I would like to see the league program run in the manner in which it was run this year, because it was extremely, extremely successful, I thought. Yeah. And it dovetailed nicely into the championship. So Yeah, it's exciting times to look forward to. It's mammoth when you look at it from this remove, Jack, and to think that we're sort of half winding down at the moment and taking a breath and a breather, and yeah, look, it's exciting, and the pre-season competitions, I presume Limerick will participate. They're the holders of both, as you know. The last time they were held, and I suppose it's not too long ago, Jack, since we were very, very happy to win the Munster Senior League and get a bit of silverware. But perhaps we have moved on from that. But I'm sure John Kiley will and Billy Lee will use the opportunity to run the rule over some new players.
Yeah, and again, we'll be touching on that next week. I think next week we'll do a kind of a senior football championship team of the year, because I have been running it, the hurling one, over on social media and stuff. And look, it's just the nature of the year we had it, that I got to a lot more hurling games than football, and you yourself are the same. But between us, we'll cobble together a team of the year for the football. We'll look at players, I suppose, that could have that chance in the McGrath Cup and the Munster Hurling League. There are plenty of players out there, but the teams are so strong now, it is hard to break into them. But I think I might leave that for this week. Also, next week we'll be looking forward to the Munster Championship. We'll have Newcastle West are at home to the Nair on Saturday week, December the 4th at 1 o'clock in Newcastle, or it could be half one, I'm not sure. Mount Collins are also at home to Ballina, and then on the Sunday the 5th, you have Kildare Palace Kenry travelling to Corofin. But again, we'll look at all those games in full, Matt. But we started this podcast remembering the man Eamonn Rea, and we had a comment in here from John Paul Rea, just said thanks for the tribute. That's coming from Eamonn's nephew. So I suppose we started with the man and we'll finish. And I don't want to put you on the spot here now,
just
Matt,
just before you go back onto it, there's a big night coming up out in Fedamore.
Oh yes. They're doing a celebration of hurling out there in Fedamore next Saturday night, the 3rd. It's a Saturday, is the 3rd. We'll be talking with Padraig Kelleher. He's one of the driving forces there in Fedamore. They're doing that night out in hurling. There is a prize, I think, on the night. I'll just check here now. But we will be talking to Padraig. You can explain your role in the night there, Matt.
Yeah, well, I'm compare of what will be a panel discussion on the night between Ollie Moran and Paul Brown, former Limerick hurlers, Rebecca DeLee, current Limerick Camogie player, and Owen Kelly, former Tipperary hero. So there'll be a good bit of banter there now.
Yeah, it's Paul Brown, I think, is expected out there as well. In Kirby's Hunting Lodge.
Paul Brown, I said Paul Brown and Ollie Moran.
Sorry,
and former Limerick players, and Rebecca and Owen Kelly. So we'll banter between the cousins, Ollie Moran and Owen Kelly. So something to look forward to. But I've had most of these on panels before, and they're very insightful into the game, and they know the game. And basically, the theme for the night will be to trace Limerick's transformation from where they were to where they are. If that's the best way of explaining it, and how it happened.
I think a lot of it starts and ends with and John Kiley, but I know it isn't that obvious. That's Saturday the 4th of December at 8 o'clock in Kirby's Hunting Lodge. Tickets are only a tenner. You can get the link there on Fedamore GA's page, and that tenner gets you into a draw to win a signed Limerick Fenway Classic jersey. I think I have a picture of the jersey in the background there. Wouldn't be a bad one to have, Matt. A collector's item, definitely.
Certainly.
They're a beautiful jersey. But again, as I said, we started this podcast remembering the late Eamonn Rea. And again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, if someone didn't know the man, asked you about him, is there any abiding memory or even a moment on the field or anything like that you could turn to, or anything else you just want to say in general before we conclude here?
No. I think I've it all said, Jack. Like all my memories of him are very, very happy memories of him. Happy memories of seeing his performances on the field, first of all. Secondly, as a work colleague for 10 years, even though I was based in Mitchelstown, he was based in Dublin. And in very, very much in latter years, I valued his friendship and I certainly valued his opinion. And like I was awestruck, Jack, right up to Monday when I heard that he had passed on, awestruck with the energy and devotion he had to, first of all, family, and secondly to Limerick GAA. In my opinion, and I'll sum it up with this, Jack. Eamonn Rea epitomised everything that is good in a human being.
No, I took you couldn't get a more fitting tribute than that. So again, a huge thank you to you, Matt. Again, condolences to the Rea family on the passing of Eamonn, and a huge thank you to everyone that has tuned in today, tunes in every week. I'm hopefully we're giving you something worth listening to. We've loads more games. We've a lot of games this weekend. We have games coming in the Munch Championship fall weekend. So we'll be
Jack,
going right
I just want to give a shout out there to Lizzie O'Dean Adair. She's an avid listener every week.
Lovely. And look, we love hearing about people listening to us rambling on, because makes our job that bit easier if we have something to be talking about and people giving us that bit of impetus to keep talking. Because look, we have great championships in Limerick, and we're blessed where we are. Not only with the Intercounty team, obviously the hurlers and the footballs, but the club game is thriving across Gaelic football, hurling, ladies football, and camogie. So look, we are very blessed. So again, a huge thank you from me and Matt to everyone that tuned in, and we'll be back in touch next weekend, where we'll be looking back on 2 junior finals, an intermediate camogie replay final. We'll have the Munch Championship to look forward to. We'll have a senior football championship team of the year and more. So we'll be busy again next week, Matt. So many thanks for everyone to tune in, and we'll talk again soon. And we'll leave you out with this clip that we play every week, but I suppose a bit more fitting that we have a clip from that 1973 final where Eamonn Rea helped Limerick to, was it their 7th All-Ireland title, and won in the middle of a 60-year gap. So many thanks again, Matt, and we'll talk soon.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods, and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time